Hello and welcome to Perspectives. Over the years, even I have done a lot of shows and all channels, anchors have talked about this. Why does Pakistan have all its eggs in one basket? We have questioned our affiliation with the Western forces, even though we haven't really had great advantage from it. And we repeatedly questioned, why do we not, once again, like in the 70s, not ally, but at least have some sort of a working understanding? And now we're seeing this relationship and meetings with China. So the question is, are we shifting our foreign policy? Are we just dividing our eggs in various baskets? Are we just being smart? Or is this, as Mr. Asif Zari has said, that his party has been penalized for these relationships? I'd like to open all of these questions to my guests. On my right, Mr. Zafar Hilali, ex-diplomat related to the Foreign Service and a great analyst and somebody who has an eye on foreign relations of Pakistan. Zafar, thank you very much for being here. A prominent industrialist, businessman, Mr. Ikhtiar Bey, thank you very much for being here. And in Islamabad, we have two very prominent guests. We'll introduce them in just 1 second. Mr. Amin Hashwani and General Zahid Abdul Qayyum will be joining us in just one moment. Actually, they're there with us now. Mr. Amin Hashwani, again, a prominent businessman and also somebody who's very deeply involved with Pakistan's international relations. And General Retired Abdul Qayyum is, of course, a great analyst of Pakistan's interests with the rest of the world. Zafar, I'd like to start with you. How do you see this trip? Do you think, as we had talked about before, about a year ago, we said, why don't we divide our interests? Why don't we seek other affiliations? Do you see it as that, or is it just another one of those Pak-China relationship trips?
I think when you said that, why do we put all our eggs in one basket, I think that you will probably find out that if you find the answer to the question of why we are a basket case, that will give you some clue as to why do we put all our eggs in one basket. You're absolutely right, but I don't think that we really have put all our eggs in one basket, except for the over-reliance that we've had on the United States. And that, I'm afraid, has little to do with the civilians and much more to do with what the army needs and what the armed forces need. We've always had, since day one, a huge enemy against whom we've been trying to defend ourselves. And whoever comes in and gives us assistance, whoever promises to buttress our security, we turn to them and we take whatever they can give us.
Even though that buttressing may be just elusive, maybe just wishful thinking.
Yes, but we come to the conclusion that we need a basic minimum, irreducible minimum capacity to withstand, our enemy, which is fair. And we think that we don't have it on our own, and anybody who is there to help us. That's basically the motivation for joining CENTO, CETO, all those Cold War pacts that we were in initially. So, why we have this kind of foreign policy is clear. To China, not because it was some great idea or something. We turned to China because they were an enemy of India. They were having the same problems with India.
Common interest.
And China was very forthcoming and ready to help us. That started it off.
But does that stand true today?
Unfortunately, to some extent, yes, it does. Even though China does not regard India anywhere near as an enemy in that sense as it did in the 70s, 60s and 70s. And China has moved on in its relationship with India, become maturer, and sees India as a wonderful economic opportunity, as a good market for its products and vice versa, and has shown by visiting India first. The Prime Minister of China has shown by visiting India, the first country on this first trip, he has shown that they really mean to normalize relations with India and take advantage of the Indian market and do not want to play the game that perhaps they feel that the Americans want them to play, which is to become the rival superpower in this region to China.
Okay, Amin, I'd like to come to you. You have great opinion, and you have worked very, very aggressively to normalize Pakistan's relationships in this region. How do you see this whole trip, and what do you see will be the effect of this whole conversation, these meetings, these discussions, with the new government kicking in about 2 weeks? With the new government.
I think the ball game is changing, and the key to that is change of mindset. It's no longer a zero-sum game as the Americans normally call it. China's relationship with India should not necessarily undermine Pakistan's relationship with China. Similarly, Pakistan-India relationship, Pakistan-US relationship, while there might be some indirect correlations, but it does not necessarily mean that it's one against the other. And I think the reason is that these nation-state structures are, with time, where 50 years ago they were killing millions of people, each other, and now it is an integrated trade and economic and a financial bloc. So I feel that in our region, in Pakistan, with Pakistan as well, we have India, we have China, two largest populations in the world, economic powers. We have so hence we do have huge potential to take advantage of this in the long run. And of course, Gwadar Port is the beginning. These things normally do take a long time, and I think it is very, very important for us to take a long-term view of Pakistan. And I think also this clash between civilization, etc., I think this realization is now sinking in that the conflicts actually, the challenges are within our countries rather than external. And I think this was very clearly articulated by General Kayani about a month ago, that the real challenge is now within. So I think we need to, there has been a realization, and I think we need to make more progress in that sense.
Okay. Abdul Karim, I'd like to ask you, do you think the challenges that we are identifying as internal, do you think the incoming government will be able to handle those challenges well? And also, I would like you to shed light on our relationships in the region, because it's 2013. This government will, inshallah, be seeing 2018. It's a very, very different world. Economic tussles, economic wars. We're not going to launch bombs on each other anymore, hopefully, God forbid. But are we poised in the direction where we will be taking the right decisions and dealing with these internal and external problems?
You see, it's quite obvious that these last 5 years in Pakistan's history were the worst as far as our economic situation is concerned. And we have given a lot of sacrifices in terms of human lives. Over 40,000 people were slaughtered. So this is the worst period. Now, at the end of this, I think the best thing that has happened is that we've been able to hold fair and free elections, and in which a government has come which has the outright majority. I am part of this party, so I am sure I've been interacting with them for quite long. I assure you, and through you to the nation, that they are fully prepared, they are mindful of the gravity of situation, and they have a multifaceted approach, and they will be able to internally and externally fight these challenges and inshallah overcome them. Now, with regard to regional situation, this visit of the Chinese Prime Minister, I feel, was very timely. He is a new Prime Minister which has come, and you know it, that when a Prime Minister changes in China after 10 years or so, all the key posts, they are also shifted, and he comes with a new vision. And after having heard him or listened to him in his speeches and different press conferences and all, one can find out that he really is determined to establish the best relations with Pakistan, especially the economic ties. Our relations with China has a long history, and it started in 1950 when we first time went with China and did not accept Taiwan. Then in 1962, Indo-China War. After that, 1963, we signed an agreement, border agreement with the Chinese. Then in 65 war, after 65 war, in 66, they gave us military aid. After 71 war, in 1972, they signed a strategic pact with us. In 1979, they gave us economic aid. But we saw ups and downs. And these were not because of China, because of our own internal weak areas. And now I feel with Mia Nawaz Sharif in the chair as a chief executive, I have seen the governments functioning, and I know now the scenario, regional and international and internal situation. I think this was the best which could happen to this country, and by the grace of Allah, with the passage of time, we'll be able to break the ice and take the country forward.
Okay. If that's up, I've invited you here as an industrialist, as a businessman. I'd like you to just shed quick comment. Last 5 years have been labeled as the worst. I'd like you to comment on that, I'm sure, because you have had affiliation with the People's Party as well. Also, economically, business-wise, we have been weak, not just in 5 years, over the decades we've been weak. Do you think we are now in a position, because we don't really have a choice, but to become strong economically? Do you think we're in the right direction or not?
See, the new government is still to take the charge, and there are serious challenges that everyone knows. Most serious, I think, challenge is the energy crisis, because unless this short-term, medium-term, this issue is addressed, we don't see anything going to be changed. But I strongly feel that it is the top priority of the new government to address the energy crisis. They're going to take some measures. Moreover, their affiliation with the Saudis will also help them, because Saudis is indicated, I don't know it is official or unofficial, but this is, I understand, has reached to me that they wanted, Pakistan is asking 100,000 barrels per day oil on a deferred 3 years payment. 3 years payment, our total oil bill, Faisal, is about $12 to $14 billion per annum. And then we import about 300,000 barrels per day basis. So it's 33%. We are not paying for 3 years. That is a big sum, which we can use it to liquidate the circular debt. Because the circular debt, normal circumstances, normal routine manner, stereo manner, you can't do it anything. We have tried in the past, we've been miserably failed. So there should be some out of box solution, and I think the Saudis hope that it's a deferred payment for 3 years, and but during the 3 years we'll be able to enhance our generation capacity, to revamp our economy for new industrialization, enhancement of export and all. So we'll be able to pay back that money which has been deferred. So this is one thing. But then Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline is another very, very important project. And calling it the national project of vital interest and going ahead, or there is if and but or review or negotiation or price discussions or whatsoever to delay the project. If the project is delayed, then I'm afraid this is the only short-term measures to bridge 1 million MMCF gas shortage. You have total maximum 2 million MMCF gas shortage. So 1 million, 50% of the whole crisis, if you are addressing in one go, I mean, there can't be a better solution. So I strongly feel that Pak-Iran gas pipeline, if somehow sense prevail and we wisely handle it, we play our cards nicely, and we let this project complete, and by December 2014, if the gas is supplied to Pakistan, deferred payment to Saudis, if it is blessed, and then LNG terminal and import of LNG, shale gas is discovered there, and small and medium, I'm not talking about bigger dams, small and medium hydro reserves are made, we can overcome energy problem. Plus, most important, my last sentence is, you can even reduce the pinch of this energy crisis by 30 or to 32% by better governance, okay, by restructuring the discourse, by restructuring the power supplying company because of the theft. They call it T&D losses, which is the Kunda, which is the theft. Sure. So all these measures are taken because the government has no option but to address this issue, because everybody is looking at it like this. And it is not long-term, 3 years or 4 years. People wanted gradual progress to look at.
People wanted yesterday.
They wanted yesterday.
Given how Lahore is, given how Punjab is, people really want.
And industry is suffering. Sure. 5 days, no gas, no paya. What you want?
You see, two things. The first thing is that the Saudis are supposed to be offering us a 15 billion package, including this 100,000 barrels. Now, if they are doing that, to give a boost to Nawaz Sharif, because Nawaz Sharif spent 7 years there cultivating them.
He has a relationship.
Yeah. But they have a relationship.
That's a good thing. If he can use that advantage and get this deal, then I think, that means he would have delivered. But if they are going to use this deal as a lever to, make us go slow on the gas pipeline thing, then I think complications
I was
would
about to
arise.
ask you that very question.
Yeah.
The Pakran gas pipeline and Gwadar port, which has now been officially handed over, these are two very, very difficult issues.
Yeah.
And Gwadar has been lethally
But you see, I'm encouraged by what Nawaz Sharif has said about Gwadar. He said this is a national project. And it's a national project, and that means he'll go ahead with it. I'm not bothered about Gwadar.
Sure.
I'm bothered about the fact that will the Saudis, pressurized by the Americans, give us this package, if they give it to us, give us
and
this package, and in
return
return expect us to go slow or whatever. Look, we have to be careful with this pipeline thing because there are sanctions attached to it according to U.S. law. Nevertheless, we are signed, we are committed, Iran is a neighbor, and I really don't think that we can side in this Saudi-Iran conflict. As it is, people think that we have taken sides, and as it is, they feel that they are fighting a proxy war in Pakistan, Shia Sunni, etc. I hope that this government does not do that. Otherwise, I think that they know what they are doing. I think they've got the noose. And by the way, I went to court, and I'm still in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has accepted to hear my petition. They haven't fixed the date. Because the criminal neglect of this previous regime in not signing the Mashal project, which would have delivered us gas 3-4 years ago, you would have had a terminal there by now. Only because, well, I mean, I don't even want to say it publicly, only because of some ridiculous thing. It doesn't make, and I hope someday some people take them to account for the kind of corruption that has gone on in this country.
I need to take a short break, but when I come back, I'd like to ask General Qayyum about these two very things. I know Zafar said that Gwadar is not such an issue, but it's not necessarily an economic issue, but I think it's a geopolitical issue, and Gwadar has been used as a massive geopolitical flashpoint in the past, with the Chinese being killed there and just law and order situation, and it has been slowed down or blocked in the past by internal or external forces. So my question, these moves which have been made in the past 4 or 5 months with Iran and China relationships, how will they be carried forward? Because, as I said in the opening, we need to have various ties and relationships. We cannot depend on one supporting hand, because we have suffered in the past because of that. Let's take a short break. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Perspectives. General Qayyum, I'd like to come to you. As I said, Gwadar, Pakran gas pipeline are two indicative decisions which are not just necessarily of economic importance to us, but they're also geopolitically important and have been a point of conflict in the past. So I'd like both your and Amin's comment on that. Going forward, what should be our strategy in these two projects and other alliances like that?
Yes, Faisal, I want to assure you, and through you the entire nation, that all those projects which are in the larger interest of Pakistan and if they were initiated by the previous government, they will not only be continued, but they will be pursued with vigor. And I would like to remind you and indicate here that this Gwadar concept was started by Mir Nawaz Sharif in his previous governments. That is how this port was developed, and then the coastal the highway also. In addition to and we understand that this is very important, and this will become a very big hub for economic prosperity, not only of Chinese benefit, but also for Balochistan and Pakistan. So that will be pursued. Number two is the gas pipeline. Gas pipeline not only from Iran, but also from Turkmenistan. That idea will also be seen. and in addition to that, from Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan. And you must have heard Mian Nawaz Sharif saying a few weeks ago that even from India, they are seeing that if a transmission line or we can get about 1,000 megawatt electricity. The question is that we have to undertake all measures which help us to revive our economy, which are best for the country, short term and also long term. Those projects, there will be no compromise, absolutely.
Okay, I mean, I'd like you to answer this question as well as another one. Mian Nawaz Sharif has pretty much very openly indicated that he will be pursuing relationships with India more vigorously, and he will try hard to normalize this relationship. And you've worked very hard for that. How do you foresee that?
Okay. First, the Gwadar port, I do agree with General Saab that it is a very, very important project for us. But the challenge is it's not just the Gwadar port, it is the entire Karakoram highway, because currently I think 12 to 15 tons can only go through that through those roads. So it's not just developing the Gwadar port, it is developing the complete road infrastructure, which is again not very cheap. Secondly, the importance of Gwadar port is also that we talk about the Turkmenistan gas pipeline. I don't foresee in the foreseeable future, given the security situation in Afghanistan, that pipeline will be coming through. And not only the pipeline, but also the linkage which Pakistan would like to be the conduit for the Central Asian Republic. I don't see in the foreseeable future that coming through. So this Gwadar port and the Karakoram highway through China can actually link us to the Central Asian republics. So there we have an additional advantage as well. As far as again, we need to manage our expectations. It is a long-term thing. As far as Pakistan-Iran gas pipeline is concerned, I think we need to be very important. It's very important to take a long-term view. Now, currently, yes, there are sanctions on like Iran, but remember, the situation can change tomorrow. Maybe a new government comes in Iran. Maybe there is a negotiated settlement. Now, we can't go hot and cold based on the flavor of the month. These kind of projects, you have to take a view of decades and decades for nations. So I think it is very, very important for us to pursue this project irrespective of the short-term bumps that we might encounter. As far as Pakistan-India relationship is concerned, again, as I mentioned, going forward, we have to work in a regional in a regional trade bloc. And as far as SAARC is concerned, India is the elephant in the room, and we need to engage with them. Yes, we do have a lot of unresolved issues which we need to solve them, but it is very important that we need to look at them, that you cannot solve all of them all at once. And I believe that economic is definitely the low-hanging fruit which we should pursue, but pursue it with proper homework and diligently. Because that actually can lessen the credibility gap, that can improve the atmosphere where both the governments can then discuss the contentious issues in a more conducive atmosphere. Because remember, it's not just two leaders or two prime ministers of both the countries sitting in the room and striking a deal. There is entire public on both sides, and there are a lot of misperceptions, and as you know, media in India really plays it up. So I think if we can start creating avenues where we can dispel the misperception, reduce the credibility gap, that will give the room to the political leadership on both sides to play to the gallery as well as make progress on the relationship. And and again, in this case also, it's not a zero-sum game. If we progress on trade, on let's say investments, it does not in any way mean that we are putting on the back burner our other contentious issues. And I think China-India or China-Taiwan relationship is a very good example where they have made tremendous progress while not compromising on their core stances. So I think they can be.
I mean, I'd like to interrupt you here. I mean, mention
situation
the
over here,
Indian
and I think
media,
Nawaz
how it
Sharif
is.
has
Zafar, you've had the fortune or the misfortune of facing. I don't think I should be taking a name, but this particular gentleman, who I think his last wish on earth is to make sure India Pakistan never become friends, and you have took him on repeatedly. Do you think the Indian media and the hidden forces within India will ever tolerate? I'm not saying India Pakistan should become best friends, but we should be at least in an amicable situation. Would they ever allow it?
I read a very interesting poll report today in which it said that whereas the Indians consider Pakistan to be a threat to India, the Indian public feels that they should be friends with Pakistan.
Right.
In other words, 70 to 80% of the Indian public feel that they should have a good, normal relationship with Pakistan and they should be friends with Pakistan. And that, in fact, what many Indians would like us to believe, especially this particular anchor and the media, that Manmohan Singh's policy of pursuing accommodation with Pakistan is actually a policy that is supported by the Indian people.
Sure.
This is according to a poll. Having said that, I will say that the people at the the Indian elite, the Indians who dominate India, are, alas, not so well disposed towards Pakistan. Many of them are in the media, and they take the first opportunity to hit Pakistan, exaggerate and
create controversy,
which is ridiculous. And everything. If a leaf falls in India, it's the ISI to blame. Consequently, I think that whereas they have their say, it was very encouraging for me to learn that in a very accurate and good poll, I mean a respectable poll, such a lot of Indians felt that there should be good relations between the two countries.
Okay, every time we talk about development growth in Pakistan, and we talk about internal problems, external problems, this particular conflict is top of the line. Do you think Amin has worked very hard? A lot of people have worked very hard to, again, I repeat, we do not have to become best friends, we don't have to get married, but we can drop hostilities and go peacefully our own ways at least. Do you think working in business industry and you've had to deal with people, there is hope in that direction?
Faisal, I've been involved with the trade liberalization with India. Series of visits to delegations, having meetings with the Commerce Minister, Mr. Anand Sharma, and also, see, I started saying that you have to look at the successful model of the trade and investment. The most successful model so far is the regional trade.
Sure.
Okay. Now, you look at the NAFTA, you look at the European Union, you look at the ASEAN. This is the regional bloc. The trade among themselves, the investment among themselves used to be 60%, 53%, 46%, ASEAN 26%.
I could even give a more dangerous example of Malaysia and Singapore, who are arch enemies. Yet, in terms of trade and commerce, they don't argue.
China, Taiwan,
exactly.
Spain and Germany, how they? So, the most successful model is the regional trade, and our regional has the most potential. Recent survey by the Harvard Business School declares that there's a very clear shift of the trade and investment towards Asia.
Yeah.
And
the largest populations are sitting here.
No, and there are reasons. There's the recessions in Europe, there's a bankruptcy, there's a financial meltdown, there's unemployment in the USA. Our orders are less and less orders are coming from. So it is our own region which has the maximum potential because of the market, like you said. So we have to focus willingly or unwillingly our own market. We have to develop more trade with India. India is a very potential market, Pakistan, and it is for both. It is a win-win situation because it is the Manmohan Singh who said to Yusuf Raza Gilani sir with the Mohali test that to maintain us in 7 to 8% growth, we have to open our doors to Pakistan, and Pakistan has to open doors to us. Sure. So it is not that we are doing any favor to each other, but it is the need of the hour in the region for Pakistan and India to enhance our trade. And let the stakeholders be involved. Unless Faisal stakeholders are going to be involved, all these small things can cause issues, and the stakeholders.
Who are the
mean,
stakeholders?
This is what I'm coming. Stakeholders mean. Now I'll give you an example. There was a time when America was very hot, very hostile with China, and the American investors in China, they say, hey boy, nothing. We have billions of dollars investment. Take it easy. Let's discuss, negotiate, and things was handled in that fashion.
Economic
So we want, like they've allowed banking, both Pakistan has allowed to open bank branches in India, India has allowed to open bank branches in India. They've also allowed foreign investment. We have virtually, me and Amin, been going there, handle NTBs, non-tariff barriers. Most of them have been addressed, controlled and contained. Trade is increasing. This is the trade which used to route it through third country like Singapore and Dubai.
But then,
so now it will
let me interrupt you and ask you this question.
Yes.
You have given very good reasons, sensible reasons why trade should increase and why we should get closer to India. Why is it then that this government, and I've just told you a reading of the polls, why is it that any government, I don't know, Congress, certainly the BJP, why is it that then they fight shy of doing what the people, in fact, want them to do, and that is to get closer?
I've been dealing with FICCI. FICCI is a very strong body representing apex body of trade industry of India, like we have Federation of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce. I spoke to FICCI Secretary General, and he told me that there's a very small segment of fund of people, they still do not want the relationship.
Okay, Amin is smiling there. I want to shift it there. But before Amin, I want to shift this to General Qayyum, because the grand perception exists that the armies on both sides do not want this. So General Qayyum, I'm asking you as an ex-general, a retired general, what about the allegation that the armies on both sides don't want this amicable relationship between Pakistan and India?
Really outrightly reject this, and I would say that this is not correct, that the armies, especially on Pakistan side, we would like the better relations with India, and we should reduce our expenses on the defense, and General Kiani has very clearly said this some time back. Now, on Pak-India relations, I would like to say that fundamentally we have two major problems. One is the issue of Kashmir, and second is the issue of the water, that they are making different dams on our rivers. The point is that you can delay that, but you cannot ignore, and you cannot have better relations with India at the cost of these two fundamental issues. No government can afford to do that. The point is that we want to start with better relations with India. You have two options to achieve these two objectives. One is a confrontational policy, and second is a policy of engagement. I think Mian Nawaz Sharif and Pakistan Muslim League feels that we should have a policy of engagement. Like, for example, as the example was being given, China versus America. China versus India, policy of engagement. The disputes are there. They will be resolved. But you can't forget them. And the point is, you may have best of the economic relations, but at the end of the day, if there is a ceasefire violation and they kill few people on the LOC, or there are rape cases, or there are collective graves found out in Kashmir, or your rivers go dry, your trade would stop, and those relations will they will totally crumble. So therefore, what we say is that we should be realistic. It should be a package deal. Discuss a time frame and say that, okay, you take these decisions, and with the passage of time, first we separate our forces on the LOC. We withdraw from Siachen. We suggest a time frame in which the forces can be withdrawn from Kashmir, and then we sit down and have a dialogue. But on that account, if you are not starting, you are not giving any any relaxation, you are not giving any indication, you don't want to even talk about Kashmir, and when you talk about Kashmir, you say, okay, hand over the portion of Kashmir which is with you, then that means that you may start with good relations, and after a year, 2 years, again, as it happened when our two soldiers, and you saw what was happening on the media and everywhere. So,
okay, I'd like to bring this to you as well, and we're running short of time. I'd like a closing comments as well, Amin.
Very quickly, yes, I do agree. It is a 60-year baggage. It's a very delicately, it has to be handled, and it has to be done on a step-by-step basis. You cannot just do everything, because then you have a greater risk of a blowback. So I think, yes, we need to do it on a step-by-step basis and on multiple fronts together. Just a very quick comment on the apparent contradiction. While people in India want peace with Pakistan, yet you see this whole hawkish behavior by the media against Pakistan. I think we need to be very clear. As far as on a people-to-people level, most people in India, when you go, they will be very hospitable, very warm to you. But there is a baggage when you talk about Pakistan as an entity, as an institution. There you'll see the media bashing. So we need to be clear on this. Therefore, you see this apparent contradiction. One last comment I just want to make on the Saudi oil deal. I think it is very nice, but I always cringe at these freebies that we get. I think we need to use this as a breathing space if we do get this deal, to do internal reforms, bring about more towards coal, etc., and not take use this as
there should be more active interaction between the private sector. This is most important. More exchange of delegation, more exchange of investors, organizing trade fairs. That will build up the confidence of the private sector. This is one thing. And the second thing also, that let the stakeholders, let Pakistan invest in India and let India invest in Pakistan. When the stake is involved, you will see a very clear shift in the mindset. So far, there is no stake is involved. They are there and we are here. But I'm thinking, I'm looking forward, when the more branches of Indian Bank will establish in Pakistan, Pakistani branches are open in India, and there's investment of...
Well, there's a cart and the horse theory, I mean, the disputes that divide us, should they be tackled? Or should we leave them for a moment, go back to what he says, build up confidence, trust, investment, trade, and then come to the disputes? I don't think that it's possible to separate them, quite frankly. And I think, as the General pointed out, you can't really have hunky-dory on the trade side and everything, and nothing being done to the real disputes which are causing people hurt.
And out of nowhere, one dispute comes and disrupts everything.
And then when does one, as you say, come in and suddenly blow everything up? So I think on this score, I'm happy to say that the Pakistan side seems to be much more flexible, much more cooperative, much more reasonable. The Indian side is...
Thank you very much. Thank you all of you for joining us tonight. I think it's an important issue. We need to keep talking about it. And again, I'm quite hopeful from this government because we have a strong mandate to take things as they wish. We wish them good luck, and let's see how.